Rang at 5:23 a.m. on a Monday in early October. I know the exact time because I'd been lying in bed staring at the ceiling since 3, running inventory numbers in my head for the bakery, trying not to think about the fact that my son had turned 7 last Thursday and I wasn't allowed to sing him happy birthday. Unknown number. Denver area code. Denver was where they lived now, where my ex-husband had taken them after the judge ruled I was unfit, a word that still made my chest cave in every time I heard it. I almost let it ring out. But something in my gut told me to pick up. "Ms. Calloway?" A woman's voice. Calm but urgent, the way only doctors sound when they're about to ruin your life. "This is Dr. Amara Osei from Children's Hospital, Colorado. I'm calling about your son, Micah." My son. 2 words I hadn't been allowed to say out loud in 1,096 days. What happened? My voice came out flat, mechanical. "Is he hurt?" Micah was brought into our emergency department last night. He's experiencing acute kidney failure. His creatinine levels are dangerously elevated and his GFR has dropped to 12. He needs a kidney transplant. We need to test you as a potential donor immediately. The ceiling fan spun above me. Kidney failure. My 7-year-old son's kidneys were shutting down. "I'm in Albuquerque," I said, already on my feet, already pulling clothes from the closet. "I can drive there in 6 hours. Please hurry, Ms. Calloway, and when you arrive, ask for me at the pediatric nephrology unit, 4th floor." She paused. "I know the custody situation is complicated, but right now, Micah needs his mother." I hung up and stood in my dark apartment for exactly 10 seconds. Then I grabbed my keys, texted my business partner Rosa that I wouldn't be in today or maybe this week or maybe ever, and ran to my car. Interstate 25 North was empty at that hour, just headlights and highway and the Sandia Mountains disappearing behind me in the rearview mirror. I drove 15 over the speed limit the entire way, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, replaying everything. 3 years ago, my husband Derek had convinced a judge I was an unfit mother. He presented a psychological evaluation from a therapist named Dr. Vanessa Caldwell, claiming I suffered from severe anxiety disorder, paranoid ideation, and substance abuse that endangered our children. All of it fabricated. Every word. But Derek was a financial advisor at one of Denver's biggest wealth management firms. Polished, charming, the kind of man who wore cufflinks and knew every judge at the country club by first name. And I was a pastry chef who just lost her restaurant lease. The judge believed him. The restraining order said I couldn't come within 500 feet of Micah or his twin sister Lily. Derek moved them to Denver, changed their school, blocked my number. I sent gifts, letters, cards for every holiday. They all came back. And now, my boy was dying. Children's Hospital Colorado rose against the October sky like a glass fortress. I parked crookedly in the visitor lot and ran through the entrance, following signs to the pediatric nephrology unit. Dr. Amara Osei met me at the nurse's station. She was tall, early 50s, with short silver locks and reading glasses perched on her nose. She shook my hand firmly. "Thank you for coming so quickly." "Where is he? Can I see him?" "In a moment. First, I need to explain what we're dealing with." She led me to a small consultation room. Pale blue walls, a box of tissues, fluorescent lights. She closed the door. Micah was brought in at 2 a.m. by his father. He'd been vomiting for several days, complaining of back pain, and his urine output had dropped dramatically. Mr. Hale attributed to a stomach virus and waited. By the time he brought Micah in, both kidneys were functioning at less than 15%. Several days? I felt my jaw tighten. He waited days? Dr. Osei's face stayed neutral, but I saw something shift behind her eyes. "What matters now is finding a donor. We need to test you, Mr. Hale, and ideally Lily. Siblings are often the best match. Derek has sole custody. There's a restraining order. I'm aware. But this is a medical emergency. Colorado law allows biological parents access to their children in life-threatening situations. You have every right to be here." "Does Derek know you called me?" "Not yet. He stepped out around 5 a.m. to pick up Lily from his mother's house. He should be back within the hour. Less than 60 minutes before I'd have to face the man who'd stolen 3 years of my life. Can I see Micah now? She led me down a hallway painted with murals of hot air balloons and mountains. She stopped at room 418. He's awake, she said softly. But Ms. Calloway, he may not recognize you immediately. 3 years is a very long time for a child. I pushed the door open. Micah lay in the hospital bed, impossibly small against the white sheets. His skin had a grayish tint I'd never seen before, and there were dark circles under his eyes that made him look decades older than 7. His brown curls, my curls, were matted against the pillow. He turned toward the door. Fear flashed across his face. "It's okay," I whispered, stepping slowly into the room. "I'm not going to hurt you." "Who are you?" 3 words. 3 words that broke me in half. "My name is Marin. I'm here to help you get better." He studied my face for a long moment, those dark eyes searching, uncertain. Then, so quietly I almost missed it. "Mom?" I couldn't stop the tears. I sat down beside his bed and took his small, cold hand. "Yeah, baby. It's me. Daddy said you went away because you didn't want us." I wanted to scream. I wanted to find Derek and destroy him for every lie, every stolen moment. Instead, I squeezed Micah's hand and said, "I never left you. I've been trying to come back every single day." Before he could answer, Dr. Osei appeared in the doorway. "Ms. Calloway, Mr. Hale just arrived with Lily. He's asking why you're here." She paused. "And we need to run compatibility tests on all potential donors as soon as possible. That includes Lily." When Derek walked into the consultation room 20 minutes later, I barely recognized him. 3 years ago, he'd been lean and immaculate, the kind of man who ironed his jeans. Now at 41, he looked hollowed out. Gray at the temples, deep lines around his mouth. But his eyes were the same, cold and calculating, like he was running numbers on every person in the room. He didn't sit down. "What the hell are you doing here, Marin? Micah needs a kidney transplant." "Dr. Osei called me because I'm a potential donor. You have a restraining order. You're not supposed to be anywhere near my children." "Our children," I said, "and this is a medical emergency. The restraining order doesn't apply when their lives are at stake." Dr. Osei stepped in. "Mr. Hale, Miss Sidar." "Mr. Hale." "Miss Sidar. Calloway is correct. Colorado law allows biological parents access in life-threatening medical situations. Micah needs a transplant. We need to test everyone." Derek's jaw worked for a moment. Then he turned to me, and his voice went smooth as silk. "Fine. Test us. But I want something in writing. If I'm a match and I donate, I want Marin to sign away her parental rights. Permanently." The words hit me like a slap. Dr. Osei's expression went rigid. "Mr. Hale, what you're describing is medical coercion. If you attempt to leverage your son's illness to manipulate custody, I will report you to Child Protective Services and the Hospital Ethics Board. Am I clear?" Derek smiled, the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. "I'm just saying I'm willing to help, but I expect Marin to acknowledge that I'm the stable parent here." I looked at Dr. Osei. "Test me. Test him. Test him. Test whoever you need to test. Micah comes first." 2 hours later, I was sitting outside Micah's room watching through the glass partition. Lily was in there with him. My daughter. I hadn't seen her in 3 years. She'd been 4 when the judge took them. Now she was 7, taller, thinner, with shadows under her eyes that no child should carry. She sat cross-legged on Micah's bed, holding his hand, whispering to him. Dr. Osei appeared beside me. "Would you like to meet her? Will she want to meet me?" "There's only one way to find out." I pushed the door open. Micah looked up and gave me a tentative smile. Lily looked up and her face went blank. "Lily," Micah said softly. "This is Mom." Lily stared at me. "Daddy said you left because you didn't love us." I knelt down to her eye level. "That's not true. I love you more than anything in the world. Your father took you away from me. I've been trying to come back every single day. Daddy said you were crazy. He said you couldn't take care of us. Your father lied. I'm not crazy. I never was. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Dr. Osei needs everyone in the lab. Derek materialized behind me. Come on, kids. Time for the blood tests. Lily stood up slowly, and I noticed how carefully she moved, like a child who'd learned to make herself invisible. The testing took 20 minutes. Blood draws, labels, sterile needles. Derek refused to look at me. Micah held my hand. Lily stared at the floor. Afterward, Dr. Osei gathered us in her office. If we find a match, Micah will undergo dialysis to stabilize his condition, then receive the donor kidney. Recovery takes months. The survival rate with a compatible living donor is excellent, over 90%. When will we know? Derek asked. Preliminary results within 2 hours. Full confirmation in 24 to 48. 2 hours felt like 2 centuries. I sat in the cafeteria staring at a cup of coffee I couldn't drink. My phone buzzed. Rosa texting that 2 wholesale orders had fallen through and the bakery's rent was due Friday. I didn't respond. At 4 p.m., Dr. Osei called us back. Derek arrived with a woman I'd never seen. Mid-30s, blonde highlights, designer handbag. She stood close to him, her hand on his arm. "This is Chelsea," Derek said flatly. Dr. Osei ignored her and looked at us both. "I have the preliminary results. Marin, you're not a match. Derek, you're not a match either." My heart dropped. "What about Lily?" "Lily is a potential match with Micah, consistent with siblings. That's promising." However, Dr. Osei paused, glancing at her tablet. "There's an anomaly in the genetic markers. They don't align with the expected pattern based on Derek's profile." Derek frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I need to run a more comprehensive genetic panel tonight. There may be factors we need to explore further." I saw confusion cross Derek's face, quickly replaced by suspicion. He turned to me. "What did you do, Marin?" "I didn't do anything." But my voice cracked, because suddenly I was remembering a night 8 years ago, a conference in Austin, a fight with Derek on the phone, a hotel bar, a man named Cole. Dr. Osei stood. "I'll have the full genetic analysis by morning. Get some rest. Micah is stable for now." Derek left without a word, Chelsea trailing behind him. I stayed. "Dr. Osei," I said quietly. "What aren't you telling me?" She closed the door. "Ms. Calloway, there's something I need to discuss with you privately. Can we talk after the evening rounds?" By 9 p.m., the hospital hallways were quiet. Derek had gone home. Micah and Lily were asleep. Dr. Osei led me to her office and closed the door. I ran an expedited DNA analysis under Colorado's emergency medical statutes. The results are complicated. Just tell me. She pulled up a file on her computer. Charts, markers, numbers I couldn't read. First, the good news. Mitochondrial DNA confirms you are the biological mother of both Micah and Lily, no question. And Derek Hale is not the biological father of either child. The room tilted sideways. "That's impossible. We were married. We were trying to get pregnant. I never, Ms. Calloway." "There's more." I gripped the armrests. "Micah and Lily have different biological fathers. They are dizygotic twins. Fraternal, meaning 2 separate eggs were fertilized during the same cycle by 2 different men." I couldn't breathe. "How?" "It's called heteropaternal superfecundation. It occurs in roughly 1 in 400 twin pregnancies. 2 eggs, 2 fathers, within a very short window." And then it hit me. Austin. November 2018. The pastry chef conference at the convention center. Derek and I had been fighting for weeks. He wanted me to shut down my catering business, said it was embarrassing that his wife worked nights and weekends. We'd had a screaming match on the phone the first night of the conference, and Cole Whitfield had been there, my ex-boyfriend. The man I dated all through culinary school. We'd broken up because he got a job offer in Nashville and I wouldn't leave Albuquerque. He'd asked me to come with him. I'd said no. Then I met Derek. Cole and I hadn't spoken in 2 years before that night, but there we were, sitting at the hotel bar, talking about recipes and regrets and roads not taken. We ended up in his room. I told myself it was closure. It wasn't. I went back to Derek on Sunday. I apologized. I pretended Austin never happened. 3 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. I know who the other father might be, I said. His name is Cole Whitfield. Dr. Osei nodded. We need to contact him. If he's biologically related to Micah, he may be a compatible donor. Can you reach him tonight? I haven't spoken to him in 8 years. I understand, but Micah's kidneys are failing. We're running out of time. I called Cole from the hospital chapel at 10 p.m. He answered on the second ring. Marin, is that really you? Cole, I need your help. I have twins. They're 7. One of them, Micah, he's in kidney failure. He needs a transplant. And there's a chance you might be his biological father. The silence stretched so long, I checked to make sure the call hadn't dropped. You're saying I might have a son? Yes, from that night in Austin. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know until today. When do you need me there? As soon as possible. Friday at the latest. I'll be there tomorrow morning, he said immediately. What hospital? Children's Hospital, Colorado, Denver. Marin. His voice was quiet. You don't have to apologize. If that boy needs help, I'm there. That's all that matters. I sat in the empty chapel and cried until I had nothing left. Tomorrow Cole would walk back into my life. Tomorrow, I'd face the consequences of a night I'd tried to bury for 8 years. But for the first time since Dr. Osei's call, I felt something fragile and dangerous. Hope. Cole arrived at 9 a.m. the next morning. He looked almost exactly as I remembered. Broad-shouldered, kind-eyed, with calloused hands from years of working restaurant kitchens. There was gray in his beard now, and laugh lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. He sat across from me in the cafeteria and said, "Tell me everything." So I did. Micah's diagnosis. The DNA test. The revelation that Derek wasn't the father of either child. The night in Austin that had changed everything without either of us knowing. Cole was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Let's do the test." By noon, Dr. Osei had drawn his blood. By 6 p.m., she had preliminary results. Cole, you're a strong match with Micah. The compatibility is consistent with a biological parent. You're his father. Cole looked at me. Can I meet him? I brought him to Micah's room that evening. Micah was propped up in bed, pale but alert, reading a comic book. Micah, honey, there's someone I want you to meet. His name is Cole. He's going to help you get better. Cole stepped in, and I watched his face change the moment he saw Micah. The recognition wasn't of a stranger, it was of himself. The same jaw, the same way of tilting his head when thinking. Hey, buddy, Cole said softly. I hear you need a kidney. Micah studied him carefully. Are you my real dad? Cole glanced at me. I nodded. Yeah, Cole said, his voice thick. I think I am. Is it going to hurt? The surgery? A little bit for me. But they're going to take really good care of you. And when you wake up, you're going to feel so much better. Micah considered this. Okay. Thank you. Cole sat down beside his bed, and they started talking about comic books as if they'd known each other their whole lives. But the relief didn't last. The next morning, Dr. Osei pulled me aside with a look that made my stomach drop. Marin, we ran a standard health screening on Lily as part of the donor evaluation process. She's not eligible to donate, but what we found is deeply concerning. What do you mean? Lily's BMI is critically low. She weighs 24 kilograms. For a 7-year-old girl, we'd expect at least 28. Her iron levels are dangerously low. Her vitamin D is nearly non-existent, and her bone density shows signs of chronic malnutrition. This didn't happen in a few weeks. This is the result of prolonged, systematic food deprivation. I felt my legs give out. I sat down hard on the nearest chair. There's more? During observation, our nursing staff noticed behavioral patterns consistent with prolonged psychological stress. She flinches when adults raise their voices. She hides food in her pockets. She apologizes constantly for things that aren't her fault. Derek had been starving my daughter. For 3 years, while I was sending back unopened birthday cards, he'd been withholding food from a 4-year-old, then a 5-year-old, then a 6-year-old, then a 7-year-old, who had learned to make herself small and silent and invisible. "I'm required to report this to Child Protective Services," Dr. Osei said gently. "I've already made the call." That afternoon, CPS investigator Monica Reeves arrived. She was calm, professional, and thorough. She interviewed Lily privately for over an hour. When she emerged, her face told me everything I needed to know. "Ms. Calloway, based on Lily's statements and the medical evidence, I'm making a finding of child neglect and psychological abuse." Lily described a household where food was given as a reward for good behavior, which included not mentioning you, not crying, and not asking questions. She was told repeatedly that you abandoned the family because she misbehaved. I couldn't speak. I just sat there and shook. "I'm filing an emergency report with Denver Family Court today. I'm recommending immediate removal from Mr. Hale's custody." Things moved fast after that. By Thursday, I had a lawyer, Nina Alvarez, a family law attorney who'd been tracking my case for 2 years. She laid out the evidence in her downtown Denver office like a general planning a battle. The fabricated psychiatric evaluation from Dr. Vanessa Caldwell, whose license had been suspended in 2021 for professional misconduct, a full year before she wrote the report Derek used to take my children. The CPS findings. Lily's medical records showing progressive weight loss over 18 months. And then Frank, the private investigator Nina had hired, delivered the financial bombshell. Derek set up a crowdfunding campaign 6 months ago called Micah's Miracle, Frank said, spreading bank statements across the table. He raised $340,000 from over $2,000, but only $130,000 went to the hospital. The remaining $210,000 was funneled through a shell company called Hale Advisory LLC into a private brokerage account in Derek's name. He'd stolen from people trying to save our son's life. The evidence kept piling up. Frank traced emergency room visits for Lily across 4 different hospitals over 2 years. Different facilities each time, different explanations for the bruises and the weight loss, so no single hospital ever saw the full picture. He found emails between Derek and Chelsea discussing managing the Marin situation and keeping the girls quiet, which I later learned referred to Lily and Derek's mother, who had apparently started asking uncomfortable questions about Lily's health. Then Stephanie, Derek's ex-girlfriend before Chelsea, contacted Nina directly. She'd been cleaning out her storage unit and found a box of Derek's old files. Inside was a fertility clinic report from 2017 showing Derek had been diagnosed with severe oligospermia. His chances of natural conception were less than 10%. He'd known for a year before I got pregnant that he almost certainly couldn't father children. And buried in the same box, Frank found a laptop with deleted browser history from October 2018. The searches made my blood run cold. How to switch birth control pills without detection. Placebo pills that look like orthocycline. An Amazon order confirmation for 90 sugar pills shipped to our old address. Derek had sabotaged my birth control. He'd known he likely couldn't get me pregnant naturally, and instead of telling me, he'd engineered a situation where I conceive, trapping me in a marriage I was already trying to leave. The fact that both children turned out to not be his biologically was an irony so cruel it almost felt like fiction. Nina held a press conference. The story went national within hours. Denver financial advisor accused of embezzling from son's kidney fund. The narrative flipped overnight. The same internet that had ignored my custody battle for 3 years was suddenly furious on my behalf. The custody hearing lasted 2 days. Nina presented everything. Dr. Osei testified about Lily's malnutrition. Monica Reeves from CPS laid out the findings of neglect and psychological abuse. Dr. Rebecca Santos, a child trauma specialist, explained that both children showed signs of complex PTSD. Frank walked the judge through the financial fraud, invoice by invoice, wire transfer by wire transfer. A pharmacist testified that Derek had picked up my birth control prescription alone 7 times in October 2018, which she described as highly unusual. Derek took the stand. He claimed Lily was a picky eater. He claimed the fundraiser expenses were legitimate. He claimed the browser history had been planted. He claimed I'd abandoned the family. Nina dismantled every word. She showed the fake medical invoices, the shell company records, the fertility clinic report he'd hidden for years. She showed the emails, the bank statements, the pattern of emergency room visits designed to avoid detection. You starved your daughter while stealing money meant to save your son, Nina said, her voice cutting through the courtroom. And you did it all while telling 2 7-year-old children that their mother didn't love them? What kind of father does that? Derek's face went red. Marin destroyed this family. She cheated on me. Lily is your biological daughter, Mina fired back. DNA proves it. And despite that, you withheld food from her, isolated her from her mother, and told her she was worthless. You punished a child for something she had no part in. The judge didn't deliberate long. Full custody to me. Derek barred from all contact until he completed 2 years of court-mandated therapy, domestic violence treatment, and full restitution of the $210,000. His professional licenses were suspended pending the outcome of criminal proceedings. The federal charges came a week later. Wire fraud, money laundering, charity fraud. 15 years. The day the verdict came down, I went back to the hospital. Micah was 2 weeks post-transplant. His color was returning, his appetite was back, and he'd started asking when he could go outside. Cole sat beside his bed, reading him a book about volcanoes. Lily was curled up in the chair beside them, coloring. "Mom," Micah said when I walked in, "Cole says volcanoes can build new islands. Like brand new land just comes up from the ocean." "That's pretty amazing," I said, sitting on the edge of his bed. "Mom?" Lily looked up from her coloring book. "Are we going home with you?" "Yes, sweetheart. We're going home. And we don't have to go back to Daddy's house? Never again." Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, very softly, "Can I have seconds at dinner tonight?" I pulled her into my arms and held her so tight I thought I might break. "You can have as many seconds as you want, for the rest of your life." 6 months later, we were settled in Albuquerque. Rosa and I had expanded the bakery. Cole drove down from Nashville every other weekend, taking the kids to the zoo, to the farmer's market, to the bookstore on Central Avenue. He never pushed for a title, never demanded more than they were ready to give. One Saturday, Lily was helping me frost cupcakes when she said, "Mom, can Cole be our uncle? Like an official uncle?" Micah, who was sitting at the counter doing homework, looked up. "I was thinking maybe more like a dad, if that's okay." Cole, who just walked in the back door carrying grocery bags, froze. "That's more than okay," he said, his voice breaking. Lily thought about it. "I'll stick with Uncle Cole for now, but maybe Dad later." "Deal," Cole said, and pulled them both into a hug. My parents came around eventually. My mother called first, crying, saying she was sorry she'd believed Derek. Sorry she'd told me I was overreacting when I tried to fight the custody ruling. My father showed up at the bakery one morning with a cashier's check and red eyes. "For the kids," he said, "whatever they need. Therapy, school, anything." I didn't forgive them right away. Forgiveness isn't a light switch, but they showed up. Every week, every holiday, every school play, they showed up, and that was enough for now. Micah's kidney function stabilized beautifully. Dr. Osei called it a textbook success. Sophie started swimming lessons and discovered she could hold her breath longer than anyone in her class, which she attributed to Cole's genetics with absolute certainty. Lily gained 12 pounds in 4 months, and the first time she asked for a snack without flinching, I cried in the pantry for 10 minutes. Derek sent letters from federal prison. I read the first one. He said he was sorry. He said he loved the kids. He said he loved the kids. He said he'd changed. I put it in a drawer. Maybe someday, when they're old enough, the kids can decide for themselves whether to read them. But that's their choice, not his, not anymore. Last Sunday, we took a family photo in the backyard. Me, Micah, Lily, Cole, Rosa, my parents, my sister Diane, who'd flown in from Chicago. The photographer said, "Everybody squeeze in." Lily whispered to me, "Is this what a real family looks like?" I kissed the top of her head. "This is what our family looks like." Looking back, I spent 3 years believing the story Derek wrote for me, that I was unstable, that I was unfit, that I deserved to lose my children. It took a phone call at 5:23 in the morning, a failing kidney, and a DNA test to shatter every lie he'd built. Derek took 3 years from us. He stole money meant to save our son. He starved our daughter. He told our children their mother didn't love them. But he couldn't take this messy, beautiful, imperfect life we've built from the wreckage. Because being a parent isn't about DNA or court orders or last names. It's about showing up. It's about fighting for your kids even when the whole world tells you to stop. It's about making sure your daughter never has to ask permission to eat again. Cole is Micah's father because he gave him a kidney without hesitation. I am Lily's mother because I clawed my way back to her through 3 years of silence and lies. Derek is nothing because he chose control over love. If you're out there and someone has taken your children and the courts won't listen and your family has turned away, I want you to hear me. Don't stop fighting. The truth is patient. It waits. And when it finally comes out, it comes out all at once and it changes everything. What would you have done in my situation? Have you ever fought for someone who couldn't fight for themselves? Tell me in the comments. Your story might be the one that gives someone else the courage to keep going. If this story moved you, please subscribe to Her Silent Revenge and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And please note, this story includes some fictionalized elements created for entertainment and educational purposes. Any resemblance to actual persons or events is purely coincidental.